Hey everybody, in our last video we talked about all the problems with our new to us 99 200,000 mile 3rd gen 4Runner.
In this episode, we're going to take you through all the things that we felt were most important to take care of for maintenance and repairs.
Let's get to it. Hey everybody, Isaac here. I got my buddy Andrew with me, and in this video we're going to talk about a lot of the key maintenance that we've done since we've picked up this truck. So just a little reminder, we bought this Project 3rd Gen 4Runner a couple of weeks ago, and before we wanted to touch it, we wanted to get it up on a rack. We wanted to assess any needed maintenance and repairs, so we brought it over to my buddy Andrew's house and put it up on the rack, and immediately we kind of had an idea of what needs to be done.
Right, nothing major, all little expected things that it's like 200,000?
Yeah, 200,000 miles.
Yeah, so it's all little stuff. It's just how can we make sure that we're planning ahead a little bit, right? It's taking care of maybe some negligence that it had over its last few years of life.
Right.
And what can we check to make sure some known things, right? These have been out in the market and there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So thankfully there's a lot of data, tribal knowledge, experiences that we just can peruse forums now, right? Yeah. We're not the first one posting anymore.
Absolutely. And thankfully, you know, Dave is also part of this build, and he's done lots of 3rd gen 400 builds and projects in the past. So between the three of us, we've been able to collectively kind of put together a good plan of action on how to take care of this thing.
And when I say perusing forums, like it's David forwarding us links of all of the he already has them bookmarked. Like,
for real.
Here's the answer, here's the answer, here's the answer. Stop asking questions.
Absolutely. And thankfully, when we went to buy it, you
know,
we brought the flashlights because it was like 8 p.m. when we went.
Right.
And we noticed like there was a couple leaks underneath, you know, like the valve cover gaskets, things like that.
Yeah.
So we had an idea like, okay, it's got 200K miles.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna need, you know, for sure these 5 things.
Right.
But really until we got it on the rack, you know, we didn't know exactly what we wanted to do to it. So
totally.
Where should we start? I wanna kind of hand it off to you. And
so we'll start at the rear, and kind of like I think the theme that we're going for here is this balance between replacing everything that we see with brand new shiny Toyota parts and not doing anything, right? Yeah. We're just trying to prolong the life of this car in its current condition because it's in eerily good condition.
Yeah.
So what we started with was the rear axle seal, and that's again a common failure. Like you see the grease on the wheel, you're like, why is that wheel have black on it? Okay, we already know what's going on here. The issue with that one is that it had been leaking for so long that it also completely saturated the rear drum brake shoes.
Like bad.
Everything, that whole corner of the truck is just...
How long do you think it had been leaking like that?
It's gotta be 2 years, 3 years.
It was caked down there. Like after you fixed it and after we, you know, were messing around with it, I took it to the car wash. I brought you my floor jack, which you're probably not supposed to do.
Yeah, it says on there, don't do this. Right. He's doing it.
I pulled that back wheel off.
Yeah.
And between like Purple Power and all these different degreasers, and I got like a paint scraper.
Yeah.
And I got all these like detail tools to like not only clean the rear axle.
Yeah.
But also clean the wheel. And then, you know, we spent like an hour in the shop just cleaning like the brakes and the...
I went through, after removing stuff, I went through 2 cans of brake cleaner and a roll of paper towels.
Right.
And that was just to get it to the minimum requirement.
Just going to say, that literally just got us started.
Yeah. I was like, this won't contaminate the new shoes. I'm leaving it.
Yeah. Which at the end of the day, it all needed to be cleaned anyway, because I think a couple days later I went and tossed new tires on.
Right.
And I don't think anybody would have touched that wheel.
No. They would have been like, this is a non-serviceable item.
Right. I mean, it was on there.
These clean wheels, it looked like a two-tone wheel, a machined wheel. The inner spoke was black and the front was silver.
Yes, and it was thick, caked on there. It looked like an old BMW wheel.
Like a 5-year-old BMW.
Yeah, old.
So the inner axle seal was pretty straightforward, right? You got an inner axle seal in there, and then there's an O-ring around where the hub mounts to the axle housing. So easy, picked them up down there at Groove Toyota, got those 2 parts. Because of the brake shoes, and I was already tired of using that much brake clean, we ordered a new set of brake shoes. So the brake shoes come with both sides, so we've got spare ones. in the hopes that if the other side starts leaking, which is okay, I now have a fresh set and I can get rid of the contaminated ones again. So we got new brake shoes on there, got them all set up, adjusted, cleaned the heck out of the drum, and got that all put back together. So that was a couple hours, honestly. Most of it was cleaning. If it had been done at a reasonable time, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. But it's, at least on this model, it's pretty easy. I bought these little silicone plugs. So when you take that brake line off at the back to slide the whole axle housing out, you just hurry and stick one of those in. That's and cool. Then we're okay. But actually, after we did that, we used, I have a pressure bleeder, and you and I went around each corner and bled the brakes and filled this bottle full of like green brake fluid. And it's supposed to be kind of clear or yellow, and it's like dark green.
That was bad.
So
maybe it had never been done.
Probably not. And that's, you know, the brakes worked, right? But if we're trying to just, again, prolong this life, fluid's $8 a bottle.
Right. And again,
worth it.
I stand by the fact that I know that we want to get this thing a bit more buttoned up because we're going to be doing suspension, wheels, tires, armor.
Right.
And we want to be able to take it across country and trust it.
Right.
But I also am a firm believer that you could not touch this thing for the next 200,000 miles, except for like the critical stuff. It'd be totally fine.
So my thought process when we're doing the brake fluid was, okay, I've got this pressure bleeder that's supposed to make it easy, and it's up in the air, and I hadn't picked up, we ordered timing belt stuff and it hadn't come yet. So I'm like, we're already under this truck, I have this pressure bleeder, let's just do this. Like, let's just try this out. That was the mindset, not like, all right, this brake fluid is toast, we need to get in here and try it.
Right, of course.
It's like, this will be fun.
Yes, kind of a might as well do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're underneath it, we've got it on the rack, we got stuff pulled apart, we might as well do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, the first jobs that we did was axle seal, gear oil in the rear diff, and brake fluid.
Yep.
And that was that's when we were waiting for the other parts. We'd already done our inspection. We knew what we were going to order, so we're waiting for all those to arrive. So after we finished that up, the other parts came, and I spent a full Saturday doing engine-related items. And to your point, everything ran fine. It was okay, but lots of leaking around the valve cover gaskets, which is totally normal. And actually, like when I was first starting in school, that was like the first side job I did was valve cover gaskets on a 5EZ.
They all leak.
Yeah. It's just a known thing. And actually, this one had been done before with aftermarket gaskets. They were like bright blue. Weird. And they're supposed to be black. Okay. If you get OE ones.
Yeah.
And everything we read on the forums is that within
David sent us.
Within like 5,000 miles, aftermarket ones tend to start weeping again. Yeah. So we went again. We got all OE stuff to put on there. Do it once. You got to remove a bunch of stuff to get in there. So I did timing belt, water pump, thermostat, and valve cover gaskets, spark plugs, and spark plug wires. That was like the full Saturday.
And a radiator.
Yeah. So everything looked fine. Water pump was fine, but you know, everyone knows when you're in there doing timing belt, you do the water pump. You have to pull the thermostat off to get it to it. We put a thermostat on there. No leaks, no crusties, nothing crazy. The belt was okay, but it did have some light cracking on it. There was one spot that had a bigger crack. So we're glad that we changed that. And you know, it's like a 100,000 mile interval. So
right, and this was done at 100,000 miles, but now it's got 207, so it's due technically.
It was time. It was time. We're trying to be diligent and do what the engineer said we should do.
Right.
When I was doing that, it took me a while because I opened it up. You know, you turn the engine to top dead center, right? You can see the crank. You get it to top dead center. You pull the covers off, and the cams are off. I'm like, okay, maybe there's a different mark. Like maybe I'm not doing this right.
Right.
So I pull off more covers and still crank is good, cams are off. I'm like, what is going on? So I moved the crank to where the cams are on and the crank is off and it's a tooth off. And
it's weird.
I was messaging with David and I'm like, look, man, I feel like I'm going crazy here because it was running fine, but we're a tooth off. So long story short, it was a tooth off. We got it back to the correct tooth, but on this engine at least, it runs decently well with the tooth off.
Like you'd have never known.
Yeah, the 2UZ V8, you definitely notice with a tooth off. But this one was like,
no problem.
It was weird.
Right.
So that threw me for a loop, but everything else was as expected, right? Very straightforward. No leaks, no weird things. Valve cover gaskets were just they were hard and flat. They didn't change. There's little grommets on the bolts to hold it down. They didn't change any of those, so some didn't have any.
Right.
So you've got it leaking around there as well. Spark plugs didn't look hammered, but they obviously were well used.
Right.
And then since we're in there, a lot of that is like, well, since we're in there, and that's, again, the balance of, well, since you're in there, you should replace all this. Like, okay, if it's cost effective for
Right.
$40
To an extent.
for $40 for wires, for $40 for spark plugs, since I'm removing all of the intake anyways, and we don't know when they were last replaced,
Right.
then we will do
Might
it.
as well do it.
But if you're talking, you know, like I didn't check the valves because they suck
Yeah.
to adjust,
Yeah.
and it doesn't tick. Not gonna touch it,
Yeah.
right? Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Same thing. Timing belt kit comes with camshaft seals, crankshaft seals. Dry as a bone, look beautiful.
Sick.
Leave it alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as I like doing extra work, we don't need to.
Yeah.
And then when I was putting it all back together, the intake boot that goes right into the throttle body, it came off okay, but you know, it's old, and I pushed it on, it was just came on and then boop, split open. So we ordered a new one of those, and then radiator was kind of brown on top, and tribal knowledge says that it's common for them to mix with that transmission cooler in there. So we ordered a new one of those and tossed it in, and yeah, purrs like a kitten.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. A little
Yes,
bit.
yes. So with that, that's like the majority of the mechanical items.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. CV axle boots were good.
Yeah.
Those don't leak. So as far as like maintenance items,
Yeah.
that covers the whole list.
And I don't think on this truck the suspension has ever been touched.
No.
It's
It doesn't look bad, but it
like,
doesn't ride.
the rear shocks, coils, the front coilovers, everything's 200,000 miles old.
Right.
From 99.
Right.
It's in immaculate condition.
Yeah.
But there's nothing left of it either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dampening is so-so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as mechanical work that was upgrades,
Yeah.
then the last thing was just what we did for brakes.
Right.
So the brakes were
Let's go into brakes, and let's go into the number one issue with third gens.
right.
Lower ball joints.
Yes. So we're doing all those together, and I guess that could be considered, that is probably considered maintenance.
Sure.
But they weren't bad.
Right, that's the thing.
We're just better safe than sorry on something. Again, known problems. Let's go in there and take it. So we got OE ball joints, Group Toyota, new bolts as well for the lower ball joints, and then we bought 06 Tundra rotors.
Yep.
OE rotors and OE pads, and then some reman calipers.
Yep.
So quite a bit bigger calipers, bigger rotors, a lot more meat to them, and then some nice OE pads. So the braking was so-so in the truck. It could not lock anything up to save its life. And the brake pedal engagement was really low, but the booster worked. You could pump it back up and be where it needs to be, and it didn't lower back down. So it was just kind of weird. Honestly, I was confused by it. So we knew we were going to do the Tundra brake upgrade.
Well, and regardless, it needed brakes.
Yes.
So then we're like, we might as well do the Tundra brake upgrade
Right.
because that's what not only everybody does, but it makes most sense for these trucks.
Right. We spent the same amount of money.
Right. OE braking is just not good, even new. It's
Right.
all right.
Yes.
But it could be better.
What I heard from my dad, who's really, he's been around the block.
Who's the man?
Multiple times.
Yes.
He's like, a factory third gen 4Runner will never activate ABS because it literally doesn't have enough power to stop any of its wheels.
It's wild.
Which can confirm this truck couldn't do that.
Yes. Yes.
So we changed all those out. We got some trouble on the tie rod end for the left-hand side.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like where the cotter pin sits in there and the castle nut, it just was water.
Yeah.
And mag chloride, and it was just crusty. So it took me a little while to clean that up with a file and get it all back on.
And thankfully, we didn't have to replace it.
Right.
We
The
just cleaned
joint
it
was
up.
great. No
Right.
movement. And it was just like from the cotter pin hole up.
Yeah.
So, we've got plenty of threads down there below, and I'm not driving it anyway, so no worries.
Okay. Okay.
Just kidding. It is safe. We cleaned up those threads, got it all back together, and trimmed the dust shield. Everything honestly went straightforward compared to what you read on everybody's write-up. Like, yep, that's what I saw.
Yep.
That's what I did. Went back together.
There were no extra steps. There was nothing tricky. Like it was.
Right. The only thing was that nut.
Yes.
That was the only outside of the norm. And I broke a ball joint puller trying to get that tie rod end
So
out.
then we went to Harbor Freight.
Yeah,
We got
that
another
included a run to Harbor Freight half an hour before they
one,
closed.
which we almost broke that one.
I bet that one.
Bet that one.
It was a whole thing. So I
Just
don't,
on the driver's side though.
Right.
This side was like
no problem.
easy peasy.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna be done with this in an hour.
Right.
And then 4 hours later, the other side was
Because
done.
we said it.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said anything.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so everything like looked good.
Yep.
Again, nice and tight. Steering feels great in the truck.
Yep.
We went out and burnished the pads, bedded
Yep.
them a little bit, and it activated the ABS.
Yeah.
So I
Game
call it a
changer.
win.
Yeah, it's 10 times better and way better than I've ever experienced, like my old third gens and stuff.
Yeah, and
Night
the pedal's
and
in the right spot now
Right.
too.
Right.
So we were like, okay, let's do the brakes
Yep.
and see where we're at and go from there. And thankfully, like we bled them really well,
Yeah.
moved along.
Yeah.
Um,
Rides and drives great now. I took it up I-25, like 30 miles north today.
Right.
Took it back home, looped around. I put like 50, 60 miles on it. It's
Tie rod end didn't fall off.
exactly.
No big deal.
It's great, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that was just fluids,
Yep.
basically. Oil change. We did everything. Front diff, engine oil,
Yep.
full trans flush, transfer case, rear diff, brake fluid. Like there's no other movable
Everything.
liquid in here that we
Yeah.
haven't changed. Haven't touched the washer fluid, but
Oh, dang it.
I knew I was missing one.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, and then obviously fresh coolant with our new radiator. So I feel like
She's all buttoned up.
it's basically a new truck.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, was that a lot of parts? Yes. But like the whole timing belt water pump kit, it was like $300
Right.
delivered.
Yep.
$90 for radiator. I mean, these again, when they drop into that 20-year range of a high volume car, everything's affordable.
It wasn't crazy. And these are so, I shouldn't say so easy to work on, but we've worked on them before.
Yeah.
So it's not like learning a new thing.
No.
You know.
And when you do the steps, like normally I don't want to remove the radiator. Okay, we're gonna change it, remove the radiator, boom. Well, now this is all easy. I got all this space. I
And we
should've
already
done
have
it
the
last
front
time.
bumper off because that's,
Yes.
we threw that away.
Right.
We had the grill off, so it's
Right.
easy access in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything was straightforward, and
Yeah.
it just reconfirmed that, boy, this looks and feels like a clean truck.
Yeah.
And then when you get in there, it is a clean truck.
Yeah.
And it makes life so much easier.
Absolutely.
Like you're not frustrated fighting every single. The only thing I had to get frustrated with, it was like everything else has been so smooth. I can't even get mad at this.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, it's been nice. And then we obviously spent some time inside.
Yeah, a
working
little
on the. There's the blend door actuator.
There
The
you go.
forums tell me.
The blend door actuator.
Yes, the
Okay.
blend door. So switching from hot to cold, Isaac would turn it to hot. It would just go click, 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 not
Yep.
do anything. Hop on the forums, locate where it is,
Yep.
take the gear out, rotate it 180, stick it back in, boom, blend door works again.
Now the only issue is like the thermostat controller.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the control buttons, we thought we had a good controller.
Yeah.
We don't.
It's just a bit hit or miss. Like it
Yeah.
still works,
Yeah.
but it's not perfect.
Right.
So I think we might have to get that rebuilt.
Yeah. For now, it's like,
It's fine.
leave it on hot.
fine.
When it's like 4 times a year, Isaac is gonna change the temperature and futz with it, and then he's gonna leave it alone.
Right. Each season,
Yes.
yeah, you spend 60 seconds
Adjusting
messing
to
with
where, yeah, guessing if it's gonna,
Yes.
yeah.
And wherever it lands, it lands.
It is what it
You
is.
stick with it.
Right.
For the rest of the
It's
season.
got auto. You don't have to tell it what to do.
It's
It
got
knows
auto.
what to do.
Yes. That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean that's been it, and then you've just been driving it,
Right.
which is exactly that's why I love Toyotas. I work on Toyotas. I buy Toyotas
Same.
because I do the things I need to do, and then I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're gonna take this to North Carolina?
Yes.
Just go take it to North Carolina. Honestly, at that point, with what we've done, it turns into like, how good are your tires?
Right.
Right? Do you have the right air pressure? Did you drive over a nail?
Right.
Everything else is gonna be okay.
Yep. Heck yeah.
I love it.
Me too. Thanks for going over all that.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
And now, yeah, the next steps are we'll try to build this thing.
Right. It's all upgrades now.
It's all
It's
upgrades.
fun stuff.
Yeah. So we'll probably do wheels, tires, suspension,
Yeah.
then a roof rack,
Yeah.
skid sliders.
Yeah.
But obviously that's over the course of the next few months.
Right. Where you're going to use it and how you're going to
Right.
use
Part
it.
of me wants to say let's just leave it like this, you know, with the ATs on it.
Yeah.
You know, put the OEM front bumper back on it. Maybe put a set of skids or slides on.
Right.
But no suspension. Leave it like this.
Right.
And go take it on a couple of trails. The tough part is it's dead middle of winter.
Right.
But if we did Moab,
Right.
I would be
Yeah.
curious what a bone stock, limited with a rear locker.
Right.
Now that it's all buttoned up, tuned up, ready to go.
Yes.
Set the cruise, go down I-70, hit Moab, see what this thing can do. So we'll see.
I mean, I like that idea.
We'll see.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Especially, we'll bring a couple spare tie rod ends for that side.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I can't. My guess is that it's just going to get the deal done like usual,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll use the rear locker. Most of
Right.
the time, you just walk it.
Right. Maybe the only limiting thing will be the nice big old lip bumper, but
Right. Well,
we'll see.
if it gets torn off, it
Right.
gets upgraded.
Right. Well, cool. I mean, I think we covered it all. I think that's
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
sounds
For
good.
now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for getting
Of
it up on
course.
the rack and putting all this work into it.
Yeah.
Not only diagnosing it, but like actually fixing all the problems.
Right.
And yeah, I'm excited to keep driving it and keep building it.
And the best part is like the only problem was the rear axle seal.
Right.
Everything else was
Technically.
preventing.
Technically.
Yeah, there was
yes.
no issues
Yes.
other than that.
Yeah.
And one tooth off, but it didn't really present itself as a
Right.
problem.
So instead of just doing that and then addressing the rest later, it's kind of like, well,
Let's just do it.
yeah.
We don't it is frozen outside.
Right.
Now is the time to take care of it so you
Absolutely.
can enjoy it all summer.
Right. Because in a month or two, we're going to want to be on the trails and
Yeah.
yeah.
And it gives us like a week where if I screwed something up, we can get it corrected.
I doubt that. That has yet to ever happen to me, but maybe.
You never know. There's
Yeah.
always a first.
Oh, man.
I'm just kidding.
Well, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And probably do this again once we get the next set of mods and accessories and things like that done. So
Heck yeah.
thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next one.